Really?
It was.
So you have your early lectures on YouTube?
Yeah.
How old is it?
How do I find it?
How old is it?
Okay.
And I haven't had a chance to look it up since we've been home.
You work in education, right?
Yeah.
This is professor in education.
Dr. Pinkston?
Yep.
Oh, you.
Okay.
He
You're
studied
on
with
the-
us.
Yeah, your education technology class.
W200.
Sorry?
W200.
How are you?
We're good.
You have a cold before. No, I can definitely see them. I don't.
Sure.
We went to developmental psychology
Still?
classes as part of their.
Like when the, oh, okay. I was just to it.
No, but we do have gone to which is
on another page is Brooke, and Brooke and Matt said that every time she is. I'm like, that's not.
Right. Like at age such the kid can't think like this.
Yeah.
Because we hit, on Monday, we were talking about different stages of developmental psych. And I was like, well, why is this not everybody?
It just talk every week, just not every week.
Because as a parent, you hear, oh, well, kids don't come with a manual. Well, if a parent had, yeah.
Really curious as to like what.
If a parent knew, okay, well, at age 3, they're not gonna understand this, so you need to connect this way so much, yeah. I couldn't understand why it wasn't there.
Kids won't face
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not.
Okay, let us start a minute. Thank you. So usually we start with basic. I'd like to introduce Dr. Gary from Education Department. He was, you know him well, right? You took some of his classes.
I took one classes.
Surprisingly,
Yeah, because it was an online class, but I met with you once to talk about assignments and get to see the pictures.
Alright,
Good
thank
things.
So this year we start the class with 1 and 2 minutes breath meditation. So with inhale, exhale, you inhale, exhale naturally. Don't force them. Just pay attention on your breath and count. Inhale, exhale, count 1 naturally. When you inhale fully, that you exhale fully, count 1. Inhale, exhale, 1. Inhale, exhale, 2, and so forth. 1 and or 2 minutes. Okay, let's do 1 minute first, please. Relax yourself, relax your muscle. Can you count? How many?
10,
17, 2, 11, 10, 13.
So remember, it doesn't matter as much as you pay attention on the breath, as much as you recognize it. So everyone has to remember. Okay, we do 2 minutes, please. Can you
24.
20, 25.
listen? Good. So 2 minutes, a few minutes is much easier. So at home you can start few minutes at a time. Which one do you prefer, in the morning and late evening? Which one? Late evening? How are you?
Generally morning, but well, yesterday was morning. I was at the dentist.
Okay.
It wasn't really a great time.
Yeah.
So I was using the breathing a lot to try to just to be calm
Oh.
and try not to focus on it. So it was hard to keep counting. I kept losing count because I was getting distracted with all the noise and everything, the smell.
Is that the tempo or no?
Yeah, it's
Okay. So how about other? You do morning, evening, or what?
I guess I kind of tend to do evening because that's when I'm like really stressed out and tired. I just need to like take a moment to rest.
Rest yourself. You do
Evening, usually.
before
I
you go
can't
to
sleep
bed.
very well if I don't take some time to clear my mind.
And if you have some problem with sleeping, you do.
Well, usually I don't, but lately it's been taking me longer to fall asleep. And I think it's because I have poor circulation. And so like my feet, it takes a little time for them to feel warm. And so like they're really restless because they want to move around.
Well, for us, okay, like moms and nuns, we used to sit in full lotus. So especially in the winter when it's cold, our feet is getting cold, right? We usually I sit cross-legged and we get warm easily. But of course, take time to practice. It's not overnight, no. Take two, but at least a decade to practice to get used to that. Alright. Okay, so let's move back to our class. Now, again, the information we learning, right, this helps us to change our paradigms, right? Plus, when we put in practice, you could feel the change now, right? You feel the change in your view, right, of lives. Plus, you could feel how much you can control your mind, how much you can purify your mind. You feel that kind of change? You feel that? A little bit? Okay.
Well, I just kind of had, I guess, a moment yesterday. I was reading about, it was ACT, and I just kind of got to this place, like, I guess I was reading about how your thoughts, like you are not your thoughts, and I was just kind of taking them to think about that, like, wait a minute, like, I think this whole time, like, I've kind of been letting my thoughts control me instead of, like, stepping back and controlling my thoughts, so it just kind of brought me to kind of a moment of discovery, I guess.
Do you recognize now?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
It's easier said than
Okay.
done,
Yeah. So this we will review again. There's plenty of ways for us to handle our thought, right? Sometimes we need to merge with the thought. Sometimes we need to separate it, right? So it depends on our situation, depending on our needs. Sometimes we need to into our thought. Sometimes we need to separate, to see them, so that they won't control us. So depend. Okay, let's move on. So describe how a mindless leader can create workplace problems. Yes, please.
Yeah.
You work in the business, you know.
Yeah, I do.
Company, big company, you know. Yeah, please.
Yeah, as I said, I work in business, so I deal with leadership, and I lead a small team of people. So being mindful in leadership is important. Some of it.
I'm sorry.
I'm doing mindless.
Oh yeah,
I know.
You mindless.
I know.
Yeah.
So I looked through some of the articles, and one of them was called "Bad Leaders," And they had several different types of bad leaders, and one of them was incompetent leadership, rigid leadership, intemperate leadership, callous, corrupt, insular, and evil. And all of these have something in common, and that's they're all like pretty much mindless. Meaning, I think it's the opposite of mindful. So people are, the leaders are either like searching out their own objectives, like they're trying to just pursue career growth. They're not thinking about what's best for their team. They're not being mindful of what's best for the company. They're just pursuing their own goals, trying to climb the corporate ladder. Or there's people who are just in it to control other people. There's leaders that just like a power thing, you know, so they're fulfilling their own desires by being powerful rather than being mindful of creating a team environment and, you know, promoting the goals of the company or looking out for individual needs of people on their team. They're just looking out for themselves as far as power. I think that mindlessness applies to all different types of bad leadership, but I think that even people who want to be good leaders can be mindless. If you're a person like I'm very task oriented, so you know my job is to make sure that we get X, Y, and Z done in this amount of time, and I have to get everyone to coordinate to do that thing. And if I'm not careful, I'll just, you know, I have my list and it's check, 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 check. And we're going down this list, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, without any real thought in it, then there's a danger there of me assigning something to the wrong person, not getting the right details when I assign it, you know, not checking it when it comes back, not asking for other people's input. My job tends to be better if it's done collaboratively, rather than me just dishing everything out. It actually is more effective if we work together, which is harder because you have to take into account everyone's communication skills, everybody's like team skills, what they can contribute, what their technical skills are, and you have to work around everybody's personalities to get everybody in a room to collaborate and discuss a design, and then you might have an issue where one person likes one design, somebody likes something else, and you have to work through all that. And it's harder to do it collaboratively, but it also makes you be more mindful of what's going on because you have to pay attention to all those little nuances. You can't just throw tasks out there. And I think it's better to be mindful because if you're mindless about it, we could miss deadlines. You could offend someone very easily. Like I said, you give the wrong person the wrong task, you know, just because you didn't put enough thought into who should do it.
So have you had that kind of problems?
Yeah, I've had that type of problems. Especially before I was really trying to pay attention to being mindful. It also can cause, like for me, it caused me a lot of personal stress when I wasn't trying to be more mindful. Like just trying to get the job done can actually cause more stress because you're so focused on the deadline and, you know, what has to be done. If you focus more on, you know, how we're going to do it and the quality of it, who's working on it, and what can be achieved, how that completion of that task can actually help us down the road. You tend to look more at the big picture rather than, okay, we got task A done, now let's move on to task B. If you're mindful about it, like task C made a certain element of type A to be different than it would have been. Like if I just look at task A for task A and not think about anything outside the bigger picture, then I might miss something in this step that I need down here. And if I remember it here because I'm being mindful, that saves a lot of rework. Because we get down to task D or C, then oops, we got to go back and fix A and B because it needed this. So being mindful helps to like plan ahead and kind of pace yourself a little. And it's hard to pace yourself when you have a deadline, but you can actually do it if you're more mindful. You can kind of plan things out better. And I think writing things down and documenting things helps me be more mindful, just to kind of pace ourselves within the sprint period is what we call it. It doesn't sound very paceful. Like you can't really pace a sprint, but that's what we do. We do sprints.
So if you're not mindful with your employees, then they complain that you may treat them unfair.
Right. Yeah. Well, one area that you can be really mindless in, and it's really common in IT, is cultural awareness. Because and that's what I'm working on my master's for, is for international relations and focused on East Asia, and that's because I work with people from India, and they have a lot of different cultural aspects than we do, and a lot of people. When you work in an outsourcing environment, a lot of people who are like associates, like I'm an associate, and then you have contractors, they have a very shut off negative view of contracting because of all the stuff you see in the media about contracting. So if you're just mindless about people, thinking about, okay, this person who works next to me is from somewhere else, but they're a person too, and you be mindful of their culture and their skills and the fact that they're a person, and not be thinking about whether they're a contractor or an associate. I mean, the bottom line is you're both there to do a job, and you've both been hired to do it, and you have to work together. So what you think about the arrangement is irrelevant, but if you're mindful of that person as an individual, as a valuable asset, and of their skill set, then you're more mindful of how you treat them and how well the work gets done.
So do they train you? Do they give you some kind of training how to deal with this stuff?
No, they don't.
You kidding me?
Well, I requested a class for 3 years, and they finally brought one to the company. And then I had to recruit my boss's whole team. I was emailing everybody, go to this class, go to this class, go to this class. It was Indian cultural awareness.
But but I talk about this kind of training how to. But basically, it's similar as mindfulness class.
No.
No.
Anything
I
like
mean,
that.
there's the big company now they utilize this kind of courses and all.
Yeah, I don't think we have any mindfulness. I haven't heard about
You
any.
better request.
Yeah, I should be requesting that too.
We call you. Okay. Anyway, thank you. Wow, we still have she worked for a big company, so she has that more experience. Okay, Rebecca, number 2. I'm sorry. Okay, number 2. This prize. Let me see. So we know, right? This is before we go to number 2. We know that not only the leaders, but the teacher, professor, even the parents. If you're not mindful toward your children, they may complain, "Mom, you're unfair." Is that right? Right? And you may, when you are in position of leading, guiding, and so forth, if you are not mindful, you may suffer a lot. So that's why mindfulness is so important. Okay, so the next one, the qualification and characteristics of a good leader, please.
Okay. A lot of different articles mentioned different qualifications and characteristics of a good leader. So I'm going to focus on telling you guys about one article I read that I think encompassed all of the best characteristics and qualifications of a good leader. And the article is 10 characteristics of the servant leader. And the servant leader is a new term for leadership, and it has to do with the transition from the autocratic and hierarchical models of leadership towards servant leadership. So the 10 characteristics of the servant leader, which is what now leaders and bosses are getting trained to, how they are trained to work with other people. So number 1 is listening. Communication can clarify the will of a group of people, or you should be able to clarify the will of a group of people. This also involves being receptive. Listening also encompasses hearing one's own inner voice. Number 2 is empathy. Accept others and recognize people for their special and unique talents, which you talked about. Number 3, healing. Healing of relationships and search for wholeness. I think leaders have to be aware of employees or people around them who need to reach a certain point and how to get them there. Number 4 is awareness. Self-awareness helps one in understanding issues involving ethics, power, and values. Awareness is a disturber and an awakener. And I have that down with 2 little stars because a lot of people don't think of the awareness aspect as a disturbing aspect, but it is supposed to reveal something to you. So persuasion, number 5, convince rather than coerce compliance. Coercion is something that was talked about a lot in the articles, and it was a characteristic of the old type of leader, and now you're supposed to have so much of an impact on the people around you that you don't have to coerce. You can easily convince. Maybe not easily, but you have the power to do that. And successful in building consensus among group members. Number 6 is conceptualization. I think this is one of the most, well, I won't say that, they're all really important. But conceptualization is a very difficult skill, I think, to attain. And I have here that conceptualization involves thinking beyond day-to-day realities, requires discipline and practice, a visionary concept. Leaders oftentimes need to find a delicate balance between conceptual thinking and the day-to-day operational approach. How will this affect the company throughout its entire existence, in the community, in association with those it's helping, et cetera, et cetera. And I think about that a lot when I imagine lesson plans and how I'm going to deal with my future students and how I need to understand what the value is of what I'm doing. Is this going to be valuable for my students, for me, for the school, for the community, everything, how it impacts everything that we do. Number 7 is foresight. Leaders need to be able to foresee the likely outcome of the situation. It's close to conceptualization, understanding lessons from the past, realities of the present, and the likely consequence of a decision for the future. Number 8 is stewardship. This is holding their institution in trust for the greater good of society. It assumes that first and foremost, the leader is committed to serving the needs of others.
That's what I'm hearing.
Number 9 is commitment to the growth of the people. People have an intrinsic value beyond their tangible contributions as workers, encouraging professional development and making funds available for it. So that's what you did. Encouraging. I'm such a baby. Taking a personal interest in the ideas and suggestions from everyone, encouraging worker involvement in decision making, actively helping laid off employees to find other positions. And then finally, 10 is building community, you have to recognize the loss from local community to large institution. So a servant leader will attempt to replicate a sense of local community. The servant leader also demonstrates his or her unlimited liability.
So these are the 10 characteristics of effectiveness and caring leadership. And there's plenty of articles that I list on the canvas. For example, this one here is communicators, thinker. Yeah, you have to think ahead of time. Otherwise, with my own experience, otherwise you're gonna lead people. If you think the same time, at them too late. You need to plan for them. That's why they promote you, or that's why they should respect you as a leader. Decision maker. Sometimes you need to have make a decision. In some circumstances, team builders. Sometimes we cannot. What happens if we cannot work with someone else? Let's say in a team. Let's say you have a team of 10 people, right? But one of them is troublemaker. Would you isolate them? So how could you work? How could you encourage them?
I have a specific recent example. I have 2 engineers who, for whatever reason, very politely do not like each other. You can tell that they're not keen on each other, but they're very polite to one another because it's their culture to treat each other with respect. But you can tell that they're not meshing. And it's obvious in like our discussions and meetings. and that they won't collaborate. They don't work together. He works over here, he works over here, and they will not work together. So at first I was asking them to share information with one another, and then wouldn't share information. So like I would remind them daily to share. Can you please talk to him on the phone about this? Because they would both ask me, and I said, well, can you please go ask him? So I tried to push them together. So what I finally did was I gave them a project to work on together. I need you two to solve this for me. You do this part, and you do this part, but you have to work together, or the pieces won't fit. So that was helpful.
That's good.
Because they did not want to work together.
Okay. So again, thank you. So there's many different ones. Okay. So let's start with number 3. Describe the 5 crucial components of emotional intelligence and how mindfulness enhances them. Please.
The first one is self-awareness, which a couple other people have talked about. Having the ability to recognize and understand your own moods, your own emotions, and your own drives. So mindfulness can help you with that, because if you can't recognize your own emotional reactions and your own pathways, the way that your mind works, then you won't be able to, control yourself in situations when you need to lead other people. Like if you are having a bad day at home, you need to recognize that you're, emotionally unstable. You can't bring that to work with you and try to lead people while you're in a bad mood and you're going to be rude to them or make bad decisions. You have to be able to recognize that and then separate yourself from it. The next one is self-regulation, which kind of goes in hand with that. You need to have the ability to control or redirect destructive impulses before they happen. So using the previous example would be to maybe redirect that maybe anger you had at a family member at home towards energy and excitement towards your work. Because you have to be able to control your own emotions to lead other people, because you might need to help them with their emotions sometimes because they're going to look to you for guidance. The next one is empathy, ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people and skill in treating other people according to their emotional reactions. So, not firing someone just because they were in a bad mood or having a bad day one time. You need to understand you do that sometimes. If you're in a bad mood sometimes, or you're rude sometimes by accident, other people are going to do that too. And you have to be understanding that not everyone's going to be in the same mood as you. The next one is motivation. Having a passion to work other than for material things such as money or for the pride or the status of it. So you want to pursue goals at work for a higher meaning, like that you want to help your community or you want to help the people that get service from your business. And the last component is social skills, which encompasses all of that. Able to develop and manage relationships and networks of people in your life. Characteristics of good social skills are effectiveness in leading change, persuasiveness, expertise in building and leading teams. Mindfulness can help in this by allowing us to accurately read and react to other people's moods, emotions, beliefs, ideas. We have the ability to properly identify our own emotions and reactions as well as others to properly react and then have empathy for others and then keep a relationship stable and healthy. So if you use all of those 5 things together, and you should be able to lead other people.
So which one do you feel more applicable? Which one you recognize is more applicable in your case?
In my case?
Yeah, especially you run in business, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say empathy is the easiest one for me to use. That's why I'm going to school for social work, because I'm really understanding and I'm really good at seeing other people as another human that has emotions. And then I think probably the hardest one for me that I've been working on since we've been in this class is self-awareness. But a lot of times I get into just ignoring myself and ignoring my emotions and then just like focusing on other people, which it sounds good to be generous and be considerate of others, but at the same time, if you're really inconsiderate towards yourself and you don't take care of yourself or pay attention to yourself, then it's hard for you to lead other people or take care of them.
Yeah, listen to you. I have two things to mention. One thing is that let's say if you have a bad day at home with your husband, your wife, your children, and whoever you have to deal with, what happens if you carry that mood, emotion to your company? What happens?
That's them too.
And vice versa, right? If you have bad mood in the company, you could not deal with your co-workers, you could not deal with your employees, and when you go home, you dump all this kind of bad mood to your husband, your wife, your children. What happens? It's unfair. So that's why in Buddhism, one day the Buddha attended the wedding ceremony, and he advised the bride, don't bring the fire to outside your house, and don't bring the outside fire into your house. Make sense? You got the point?
What was that? Sorry, I had a hard time
Okay.
understanding.
The point is he advised, he attended the wedding ceremony.
Yes.
He advised the bride, don't bring the fire from inside your house to outside of your house, and vice versa. Don't bring the outside fire into your house. You understand? It's understandable, right? So when you work, you need to be professional way of working, and just put aside the problem at home, or when you go home, put aside the problem at work so that you can have time with your relatives, your husband, wife, whoever. And that's one. Another one is that, like we mentioned, right? If we are so goal-oriented, what happens? If we are so goal-oriented, we're not mindful with what's going on. Yeah, we just check and check, and we could not. Sometimes we hurt the feeling of our employees, right? Basically, remember we talk about we need to consider about the value instead of the goal. Remember, the value of accomplish that project, or the value of come to the class, right? To get more knowledge, like I just mentioned at the beginning, to change our paradigms, to feel the change within our mind, right? Through study plus the practice. That's the value, not the goal to get an A. Remember, at the first time I mentioned about that too, right? So yes, so that really is why I rate I don't know whether you could feel or not, stress-free environment for you to study. And she's been here with me for last semester. You could feel that?
Yes.
Can
That's
you
why
see?
I took this class.
No, not why. Of course I know why, but how can you explain for them how can I rate that kind of stress-free environment in my Buddhist class last semester?
Well, the format was very similar to this class, where we had writing assignments, and we had some people did presentations, and some people wrote papers. But there were no really strict deadlines on when you had to turn them in. So the motivation is to turn them in yourself in a timely manner, because then you don't get fouled up. Like right now, I'm behind because of a different class. I got behind in this class. So I've created stress on myself by falling behind, but the format of the class doesn't put any undue stress on me because the deadlines are sort of flexible. But then, you have to be mindful to not get too far behind or you put stress on yourself. But Buddhism class was very similar, the same type of format. We didn't meditate in there, but we learned a lot of interesting things about different parts of the world.
I told many professors that I know most of you have several stresses from different professors, right? You have all kind of deadline, multiple choice especially. So for me, I want to do it in different way. I want to reverse that part. So I get value how much you understand. Of course, you are a student, you more mature than the freshman and so forth, you got the students. So that's what I trust you. So we work together with the value, not with the role. Of course, every one of you like to have an A, of course, but that's if you just pay attention on the role, try to study. Remember when you study math in chemistry and so forth, you try to memorize a lot of formulas, and when you're done, if you not make your major, you forget that, right? So you put your mind more in goal oriented to have an A, but you don't get much about that class. So that's why it's so important. And, I talk with many professors. Please don't give them too much multiple choice. Stress them out. Right? Sometimes it's unfair, right? You study a lot, but you understand the material, but when you circle the wrong answer, you may fail the class and you may degrade yourself, right? So that's why we work together with the value. That's in ACT, okay? So again, here, there's a thing that she explained. This is so obvious, and again, they say that in order to be effective leader, you need to have some kind of emotional intelligence. So these are the emotional intelligence with the mindfulness, self-awareness. We talked about that last time, right? Where whichever thing you do, you need to be aware of. That's so simple. When you walking, standing, sitting, talking, thinking, eating, and so forth, that's called self-awareness. And social awareness is similar. We need to be aware of other people, how to interact with other people, how to understand other people. Of course, it's not easy, but throughout their facial expression, through their communication, and so we can recognize the same management, how we manage our emotion, like you mentioned, right, and how to develop the sympathy and so forth. The relationship management, influence, conflict management, we have that lesson later on, especially decision and acting. Okay, so now the next one let us review again the 4 approaches, right? The mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapies, ACT, acceptance, cognitive therapies, and DBT, right? Dialectic behavior therapies. Okay, so can anyone of you share what's meant by MBSR?
Mindfulness-based stress reduction.
Yeah, what's the function of that?
It's to help people who struggle with managing stress.
Okay. So what is the approach? How could it help? How could it deal with the stress problems?
Well, I get MBSR. I focused a lot on MBCT, so looking back at MBSR, what I can try to remember, but I might be getting it mixed up with MBCT. But it's when you think about all your thoughts and imagine them. Is the book, is that MBCT? I think it is.
MBC.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, I'm not sure.
That's okay. That's fine. It takes time. That's why we need to do the review this. Okay, here remember it's 7 attitudes of MBSR: non-judging, patient, beginner mind, trust in yourself, non-striving, acceptance, and letting go. Remember these 7 attitudes. It's hard. It's hard for people to have beginner mind too, right? Remember we talked about that. No judging, no judgmental, not label good or bad. Patient. Some of you have that skill, right? Some of you may not have, so develop that. Beginner mind. Trust in yourself, confident. When you're a leader, you have to have the confidence so that people will follow you. if you don't trust yourself, who could follow you? Is that right? You have that kind of confidence. Non-striving. I remember one day, there's one young man. He came to my temple. He's at least, I think, mid 20. He came to my temple and did meditation with me. Of course, I gave him some kind of instruction. Just let the mind, let go of the thought and so forth. And after we done with that meditation session, he said, "Wow, how about your instruction is about let's see, in his way, I forgot the exact sentence he said, but the meaning is as put out of all the thought. In the school, we get in knowledge, right? Right? You go to school to get the knowledge through the books, through the lectures of professors. With meditation, you dumb out. Is that right? So, for him, at that moment, watching his facial expression, I noticed he could feel it's weird. Right? What do you think? Up to now, is that weird anymore? What do you think? Is beneficial or is weird? When you need to dump out of this thought, you need to let go of your thought. Remember? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely think it's beneficial. I mean, I guess kind of approaching it may seem to be weird, but once you kind of get to know what it's all about, you kind of realize it's actually helpful.
Yeah, helpful. Yeah, when we study, get focused on our studying, right? And when it's time for us to rest, let them go. Instead of holding, remember, sometimes you have to study hard for chemistry tests and so forth, and even in your dream, you still frightened about that kind of test. Is that right? So that's why you need to let go of them. Right? So again, so this is so important. Now striving, you don't need to. We start with the breath, right? You don't need to try to control the breath. Try to inhale. Try to push out the breath, or pull in the breath, and so forth. Just let this go as the way it is. So that again, this is 7 attitudes of mindfulness based reductions. So how about the next one? MBCT. Anyone who would like to say again? MBCT, mindfulness based cognitive therapies. Are you good with that?
I guess I can do that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, what's up?
It is for people who deal with anxiety and depression. It is the third wave of behavioral therapy. So it incorporates cognitive behavioral therapy, but it also incorporates mindfulness, which is the difference between CBT and MBCT. And instead of thinking about your thoughts that are negative and replacing them with positive thoughts, you accept that you have negative thoughts, and you realize that they're temporary and that they can be let go, and that sometimes you're going to feel this way, sometimes you're going to feel this way. And I guess to not fear your negative thoughts, but recognize them, you can reflect on them and not analyze them. And there are a lot of different tools as well that really help people. Like I mentioned in the book earlier, imagining your negative thoughts as a book that's always up in your face. And I'm trying to realize that if your negative thoughts are here blocking you from seeing the reality of things, like if your negative thoughts become not just thoughts, but how you actually see the world, then you're not being in the moment and being aware of what your reality, what your life is actually like.
Thank you. Have you had this kind of experience, let's say, when you stand up to have presentation, somehow in your thought you say, no, I'm not a good person For example, I could not do this. Or even when you go to interview, right? You may say, oh, I may not get this job, right? Or even when you do project, right? You may say, oh, I may not finish the project on time and so forth. So this kind of negative thought that block us, right? So up to now, we know, right? Instead of doing the replacement of the positive one, it's more beneficial if we either to accept that it's not easy to accept them, right? But for me, in my own experience, to let them go. So depend upon your practice, especially in meditation, right? So you afraid your own demon, is that right? This happened to everyone. It happened to me too, sometimes too. But the point is, we have the skill to let them go or not, to recognize them or not, to live with them, recognize or to let them go. Okay. So anyway, so that's good. So let's review one more time about ACT, please. Anyone? Yeah, please. Yes.
I think one of the discerning factors of ACT is that the point of it is not to get rid of your thoughts and try to avoid them. Or for instance, not to get rid of, say, anxiety or anything that you're experiencing there. That is often a side effect of it, but a lot of what I was reading tended to, I guess, kind of incorporate some of like MBCT, like you be in here and now, separate yourself from your thoughts and realize like that they are your thoughts here, and that's not actually you. Like you can kind of like self-awareness of this is actually who I am, and these are my thoughts. Trying to think of, I know it really has a concentration on values as well. I guess as you were kind of talking about before, like what's the value? I guess you focus on like the value of like going to class and learning, or the value of this kind of the experience and the learning that you get along the way.
About the last one, the DBT, please. You. DBT. Yeah, please. DBT. Yeah, dialectical.
Behavior therapy. So it's used to treat complex or difficult to treat mental disorders. A lot of times it's borderline personality disorder, and doesn't it try to develop a way for people to talk, like, I don't know, I want to say like talk about what is like communicate what is going on instead of just holding it in, like an effective way to communicate it.
That's fine. Let's get briefly review about these four types. Let's go back to our list of let me see here. Okay. Now this is okay. Now number four. How about other people? Which number you pick up? I'm sorry, I messed up. This one is 10. This is the next one. Okay, here. Yeah. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, which one you do, please?
I did 4.
Okay, yeah. Can you explain?
Actually, sorry, no, I did 5.
Okay,
I was thinking about doing 4, and then
that's okay. That's fine. Yeah, please. What's about?
So, and I focused on ACT, like how ACT can deal with this. It's kind of similar to what I was talking about before. One of the concepts of ACT is kind of the observing self, and that's really what I focused on in this. For instance, how that can deal with I'm looking this up. Self-awareness. I thought, okay, yeah, by observing yourself, I think you kind of realize
Okay.
that, like I was saying earlier, this is who you are. Like, you are a person, you are not your thoughts there. And I think that's, again, that's for me, that's really helpful. A kind of discovery point there. Because a lot of the times I become what my thoughts are. And so if you can kind of take a step back, you can realize that that's not who you really are. I think self-confidence, it's kind of the same matter. A lot of these things I kind of really focused on that, I guess, being aware of who you are and taking a step back there. For instance, self-awareness, I think, or self-confidence. Usually if you have low self-confidence, I think that's created by thoughts, like negative thoughts about yourself, like I'm not outgoing, I'm a boring person. And one of the suggestions, like they had an article, they said instead of saying I'm not, or like I'm not an outgoing person or I'm boring, say I have the thought that I'm a boring person. I have the thought.
That's different.
Yeah, so that's, again, you're kind of stepping back from everything and saying, this is not me. I have the thought, but I am a different person. And I think that helps with like self-confidence and even, say, enthusiasm. I guess it's a little bit of a stretch here, but I think maybe the lack of enthusiasm could come from the lack of motivation. And that could strive again, or come from maybe just because you don't think you're good enough to do something. You don't have, say, enthusiasm to go to college because you maybe think you're not going to do well in college. Again, it's going back. I know I may kind of sound like a broken record, but that's just going back to realizing that this is not the person you are, and these are thoughts that you have about it. And that's kind of how I applied into all of these things. And, the courage, self-compassion, self-knowledge. I just kind of focused on that observing self.
So how could it relate to the position as a leader, for example?
As a leader?
Let's say in the meeting, okay, let's say you lead the groups, right? 10, 20 people
Yes.
in the group. And some of them, they criticize your project, and they say, no, your project may be inapplicable.
Okay.
And so they point out all kind of mistakes that you laid out in your project. How could you deal with that kind of person? With this kind of ICT?
Well, I think you don't need to necessarily try to avoid that, because that's not the point of ACT, as I was saying earlier. I guess you can, first off, one of it that just says up there is acceptance. You can accept that this is what they are saying about you. Don't try to change it necessarily. I mean, you can obviously do what you think is right, and do, if you really think this is the greatest move for like the company that you're working for to lead, you can do that, but you don't have to really necessarily focus on changing their views of it, because you really can't change anybody else's view. You try to influence it, but you can't change it. So that's how I think, one way at least, it would be applicable to a leader in that position.
So sometimes their view is quite different from ours.
Mm-hmm.
They may not understand why we have that type of proposal, right? So the point is for us to communicate, to explain to them why we make this proposal for them to follow, because they support to follow us. So we need to explain to them in detail if they don't understand. Okay, everyone, the next one. You like to try? So which one you do?
I think I did 4 with MPSI.
Number 4? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back here.
I kind of jumped the gun. That was my fault.
Yeah, do number 4. Okay, yeah. So which model you use?
MBSR.
Okay.
I just felt like that was the most applicable one for stress and anxiety.
Okay.
But mainly I just focused on like, as a leader for anything, you're gonna encounter stress, and you have to be able to regulate your emotions. Like in my job, I work in a florist, and on the holidays I'm a floral designer leader. I have to teach everybody else how to do it, and you got to do that in like a day, and it's hard because if you're not artistic and you're trying to do it, there's like a science to it, and so I mean it's really stressful because you have 300 orders that are going out, and you need all these people to be trained. So it's really, really stressful, and everyone's counting on you because everyone has their delegated job that they have to do. And I guess I chose this because I was like, well, I'm going to kind of see what I can do because I don't have the healthiest stress management techniques. So mainly with MBSR, you're focusing on like, and I talked about this in another paper, but there are formal practices like body scanning, body awareness, and meditation, and then informal practices that are in like your everyday activities. So like when you're taking a shower, just, experience the water, or if you're washing the dishes, be mindful of what you're doing and only be focusing on what you're doing in the moment. And the main important thing is do it without judgment. Don't judge what your feelings are. Don't judge like, okay, yeah, I'm stressed and that's bad. Just accept that I'm stressed and I know that, and then it'll be able to work itself out. And then with like emotional regulation, it was the same article was talking about noticing your feelings and your thoughts and your body sensations as they are. Okay, I'm feeling really frustrated, and that makes me angry, and then that makes my heart race, or whatever, and just be okay with that. And then to combat that, you're supposed to focus on your breathing and count your breathing, and it just kind of works itself out whenever you're not having negative thoughts attached to what you're doing.
Thank you. So with this 7 attitude in the MBSR, which one you draw out a lot?
Which one do I use a lot?
It's non-judgmental.
No, I'm bad at that.
Okay. Okay.
I think the one I use the best is patience. I can be pretty patient, but even if I'm patient on it, I'll be like, no, that's bad. But I'll be patient with that. So, non-judging is not good. For me, acceptance isn't good, and letting go isn't good. I think patience is the only thing out there I can do.
Oh, good. So, that's right. Unless you can do so. All right, that's
But you're accepting that.
Yeah.
So you are.
Okay, so the next one. Which one?
I wrote about number 1, but
Okay.
I've been looking at these other ones, and I'm a community advisor on campus, or a CA, RA, whatever you want to call it, just depends on where you are. And so I have to not. Last year was really hard for me because I didn't know how to manage my stress. I didn't know how to accept the things that were going to happen or that have already happened. Like, I've been in this stressful situation, and I've carried it with me for days after that, and it really made everything a lot harder. And so I was looking at the listen, understand, and have empathy for followers or employee problems and support them. I guess it doesn't really specifically follow any one of these, but we have this thing in our on our team. It's called filling each other's buckets. So things that will happen, like stressful situations, school, relationships, will all drain your bucket. People just being grouchy will drain your bucket. It'll take all your energy out. So then what you can do for each other is, by supporting, is talk if they want to talk, or little acts of kindness, or helping take the load off. If your bucket's to the brim, you have a little bit of wiggle room there, whereas someone's bucket's at the bottom, you can take a little and get a little.
And I don't know exactly if that would fall under anything with NSVR and ECT or any of that, but it's something that's I found helpful. And like I had to learn not to have anxiety about the things that were coming up, all my deadlines, but not carry past like incidents is what we call them.
And you, so like you mentioned about one of your friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her mother demanded her to have straight A's.
And she even now that her mother's passed away, she's still struggling with that. She said, I break out in a cold sweat, I start shaking at just the thought of getting anything below an A. And, no, she's a grown adult, she's in her own house. And she's still in the past with her mother. So.
Or how would you like to say something, Andy? Yeah, you have something, or you want to do something?
I'm still, as I was trying to do this last night and I was overthinking everything, so I'm just trying to absorb what everybody else is.
You try to? Which one you pick up?
I think like number 6, being present and be aware. It's like for me, I'm gonna like apply the MBSR, like stress reduction. Is because it happened to me is like my mom and me, and now I'm doing it. And she she was back there the same because I think maybe just Asian culture, I guess. Like everybody in my family say you should get your GPA 3.5 and above. And I said, wow, this is hard. It's not easy for me at all. And also at the same time, you get an internship for business, they require you, you have to get a certain GPA to be able to stay in the internship. And it's like straight out, sometimes it's difficult for you to manage so many different tasks because different professors have different philosophy. So whenever I think about that, and sometimes I'm really confident about myself, I just myself, yes, I can do it, doesn't mean I can. But sometimes, because people around me put them on me stressful, so I think about what if I get low GPA because my test score doesn't mean I am not good, in reality. So can I be able to get a job because what my mom didn't mean to take care of her. I need to have a job to pay off for house, around tax and everything. Because she keep talking about whenever you're done college, I can let the house reside under your name. And I said, what can I do? And I don't even have a job, and I see tax and insurance car and everything coming up. I really sweat off because I don't know what to do. Even if, yes, I really judge myself, confident and being patient. But it's just sometimes because the effective, outside, especially at school, because GPA and stuff, kind of throw me off a little. But whenever I work in any company before, work in Kentucky Kingdom, even if I have no clue about, they say you do castellar and stuff like that, and they train me, I said whatever I never did it before, it doesn't mean I don't get it, but if you training for me, I can do the best for you. But yes, I did a very great job, and everything turned out very great. So I think whatever you said, you study in school, don't think about what is the grade you get. You have to actually think about what do you want to study, what do you want to remember. Because I see a lot of students in my computer study about Excel and stuff. They try to get half the class. But then later on, when you go to interview a job, they're going to give you a small quiz to see, okay, at this function, how to write this and that. Even if you get an A, but you don't try to actually learn, there's no way you can remember.
That's the value there. Thank you. So thank you. I have a lot of information here and there for you to how to develop a good leadership skill, self-awareness, self-awareness, organization, and so forth. It's a lot of information I put up on Canvas. If you have time to read all of them, let me go back here. I think let us watch these short video clips about mindfulness meditation for leaders.
is paying attention in a particular way, purposefully,
Can you hear?
presently. Mindfulness is helpful to leaders because it helps leaders to zero in on what's happening at the present moment with more clarity. So they're less reactive, more strategic, and more of an observer. And also they're more present with the people that they're working with, more compassionate.
For me, it's been about patient and really focusing on the task at hand and taking the moment to listen to people, get their input, and being respectful of the dialogues that need to happen if we are going to be productive in our work. Mindfulness for me has helped me in the workplace. It can be very hectic at times. I find for myself emotions get very high with people, especially if you have to deal with any patient situations or anything like that. Mindfulness has helped me to stop, be in the moment, and doing that, I find it just sort of de-escalates everything. The mindfulness really helps with being responsive as opposed to being reactive in more day-to-day situations. And I think too, like, that's what a lot of the Seven Grandfather teachings are about as well. I find it very interesting that I'm able to be more productive. Taking time to just meditate for 15 minutes daily has provided me with an opportunity for self-care. And by taking care of myself, I'm able to be more present with others.
I found the whole experience of practicing to be more mindful very helpful. And I'll start from a personal perspective. I mean, how many times have you driven to work and had absolutely no recollection of how you got there? That's being mindfulness. So to be mindful is quite a bit of work, at least it is for me. But I find that when I practice being mindful, I am more in the present, which means that I'm more engaged when I'm speaking with people, and I'm certainly very engaged when I'm listening to people.
Welcome back, everybody. There is a growing movement that believes being more mindful as a leader could enhance your performance. But can a kinder, gentler CEO be effective? Some say absolutely. Bill George is a professor at Harvard Business School and the former chairman and CEO of Medtronic. He is a champion of the introspective practices and created a course at Harvard called Authentic Leadership Development. Jeff Sonnenfeld is the Senior Associate Dean for Executive Programs at Yale University School of Management. Of course, Ariana is our guest host today, and she is still with us. Bill, let me start with you. You have been a champion of this entire mindfulness argument. What is that argument, and why don't you tell about how you think it makes a difference in leaders?
Well, we live in a very frenetic society. It's 24/7. I must confess I'm 24/7 involved. All kinds of things coming at it. And there's a lot of stress. How do you maintain resilience in this way? I found mindfulness the very best way to do it. I started meditating back in 1975 when I was very young. At the time, I was extremely frenetic. I think it's helped me calm down, have more clarity and focus, and frankly, be a lot more productive and a better leader with the people I work with. And we've now been teaching this at Harvard Business School. We have some 800 students every year that go through it, MBAs and executives. And it's having a very big impact. We don't teach meditation, but we do talk about mindfulness and authenticity. And how do you find kind of the passion, the power within you to be an effective leader? How do you convey that to your people?
How do you do that with real examples? Because it sounds very touchy-feely. How do you make the students actually think about this in real terms?
Well, I think you need an introspective practice, and then I think you need honest feedback. But I think every day we need to pull aside for 20 minutes and just think about what is it that's really important today. I find when I do this is when I get my greatest clarity, most creativity. And if you don't have some form of practice, maybe it's not meditation, maybe it's journaling or diary or praying or talking to a loved one, but something where you really think about and focus on what's important, because you can't just be scatterbrained all day long. Can't be productive. You can do it.
But you can do that on a treadmill, right? I don't. Or
yes.
I swim.
You can
for
take
a
a
long
long
walk.
walk.
Yeah, when you swim, it's the same thing, right? It's all about
the same thing.
You know, what is interesting, and you've been involved in this for so many years, but what is interesting is that there seems to be a kind of tipping point Because if Davos is here, for example, you saw suddenly all these sessions around mindful leadership. You saw a Buddhist monk, during car, walking by, teaching meditation to CEOs. You saw Mark Williams, a professor of clinical psychology from Oxford, talking about mindfulness. So, really, tell us a little bit about what do you see as this kind of critical mass tipping point around this issue, around in American corporations?
Well, Ariane and I, you recall, we were together doing a session with the young global leaders, and they were really caught up in it. But I think now we're seeing many more American corporations here locally in Minneapolis. We have General Mills has been a pioneer with mindful leadership. Target, Cargill on the West Coast, you have eBay and Genentech and Google, of course, has been a real pioneer. On the East Coast, you have Aetna, who Mark Bertorelli's been doing actually studies on it. So I see it's happening in the corporate world. So one reason it's happening, it's going to improve your long-term bottom line. I can't speak to quarterly results, but I'll tell you it's going to improve the long-term.
George say pray. I can't imagine the Huffington Post would allow anything on there that praying counts for meditation.
Oh my God, are you serious? We have a fantastic religion section where we cover prayer, where we cover...
For the people swinging the guns and religion.
There's absolutely no difference between prayer and meditation. No difference at all.
Jeff, do you buy into this?
Believe it or not, I do. I often come in as a cynic in the new thing of fads, and I don't think that's what's going on here. Of course, we all remember the art of Japanese management and everybody getting onto Kaizen practices, and there's a book an hour coming out on corporate purpose these days, and the empowerment issues and quality work-life issues that sometimes get cheapened in the way they're handled. The whole excellent, self-directed, mind-expanding things we've done in the 60s, something different here. And it's important that this not just be classified with the wisdom of the East. There's a lot of this in the West, too. Jean-Paul Sartre in the 1950s was warning us about the mindless happiness of the stone.
So since time is up, so you have more time to watch at home. And this is some articles that I post online. Let's talk about what you call the ADT. It's not ADD. You know it's an ADT, attention deficit trail. As they say that that's not because you were born with that, but because of the environment. Like you say, you stress out because of people, other people comments. People give you stresses. Or if you're a leader, even you're smart, if you are talented, but you're overwhelmed with all kind of projects. And they stress you out. That's what they call the ADT. And again, this is all kind of information here. Here. Why smart people underperforms? Because they don't know how to handle their stress. They don't know how to handle their anxiety. But they're smart, they're talented. Right? So now we just reorganize ourselves. We just view things in a different way. Yeah. Okay. So that's here. They talk about here. You see that ADT, right? See, can you do that? Mm-hmm. ADT, yeah. Attention deficit. Yes.
I just am now noticing the irony of the video because mindfulness is all about unitasking instead of multitasking, focusing on what you're doing in the moment. And then there's like the stock.
Yeah.
They scroll at the bottom, and somebody who is very multitask. I mean, the way I work, I'm just like, it's very hard for me to get rid of everything else and focus on one thing. So I was just like.
But that's the news. That's the news.
Yeah, I know, like they have to do it, but I was just like, oh my god.
They have the stock, what they call the stock, right?
Right side. They're all interrupting each other. Yeah.
So that's what you get used to that kind of culture.
It's hard to listen.
Okay, let's go.
That's why I read the news and I can't.
Yes.
I don't mind watching it.
Yeah, let's go with let's say today Wednesday, right? So next week. This next week we talk mindfulness in intimacy and marital relationship. Okay, so we have hand to welcome to pick up anything. Let me see here. Okay, how about number 1? Yes, you are the first one. 2, please. Okay, Morgan. 3. Okay, Rebecca, right? Oh, you were 3. Okay, you are Jennifer, right?
Yes.
I don't see your name here. Jennifer. Oh, no, sorry, I messed up with. Okay, sorry. 1, you number 3. Yeah, number 4.
I do 4.
Okay, 5, please.
Yes, I do 5.
Okay, okay, 5, Jacob. 6.
Oh, I didn't see it.
6, Rebecca, right? 7.
I want 9.
Which one?
I want 9.
Okay, 9. Good. No, that's good.
I
9.
just didn't know if there was anybody left to pick any of the ones.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So other people can pick up. Okay, so
I didn't read what that was. Did I switch to another one back?
You have your choice. Don't worry. Yeah. Which one you like?
Which one has not been taken?
No, don't worry. You can pick up the other thing. That's okay.
I mean, I can do 10.
Yeah, that's
I'll
good.
do 10.
10's not
Okay.
taken.
Okay. Yeah, enhance your relationship, right? Okay.
One is he not wanting to
5.
see?
Everybody wants to do 5. Why does everyone want to do 5?
Yeah, I mean, what's,
Passion is the wisdom.
Okay. You want to change?
no, I'm fine with 3. I'm just
Okay.
wondering what was wrong.
That's
What was
fine. Okay, that's great. So have a nice weekend and try to keep up with the practice and good feeling how much you change practically. All right, thank you. So we'll see you there.
Yes.
Sorry.
Great.
After 16 years of marriage, you need this stuff. How would you say that? I still feel horrible about the whole hamster.
Are we going to do a reading response on parenting and mindfulness?
Which one?
Do we talk about parenting and mindfulness?
Yeah, we will. Next Wednesday. This one will be next Monday, and the next month Wednesday we'll talk about parents. Yeah.
Oh, so.
And you be ready too, right?
Will I be ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
To be parents,
Oh,
right?
am I ready to be a parent?
Yeah.
Psychology class?
I may be ready, but that doesn't mean I want to be.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know if we're ever ready yet.
I'm gonna
I'm not
have to agree with that. I don't think you're ever
Yeah, I don't-
truly ready to be
You
a
never
parent.
know
Never
what
know.
kind of child you're going to
You learn, right? You trial and error.
Yeah.
You learn
I'm
what you have.
prepared to try.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want that right now.
Have you had anyone sign up for any presentations yet?
Which one?
Have you had anyone sign up for any presentations yet?
No, if you like.
Because I think I want to do a presentation about yoga.
Anything related to mindfulness? Yoga mindfulness? Or okay. All right.
Like more of on the aspect of mindfulness and being aware of your body, being aware of yourself, because a lot of people, experience pain and experience like tension and a lot of things because they just completely ignore their bodily needs instead of it's not. I want to do it because most people are going to focus on your mind, but it's not all about your mind. And I thought it might be kind of different instead of just standing up there with the PowerPoint slide.
That's good. So you have 25 minutes?
Yeah, but I can definitely do it for 25 minutes.
Good.
Do it for about an hour almost
You can
every
do
day.
like the presentation, like instead of the paper, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
We can talk about that. You have plenty of time to decide.
Yeah, I will do
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
I've been thinking about one for a
Good.
while. I'm going to complete a meeting. It's okay.
Okay. If you can
Can you
25. 24.
20. 25.
listen? Good. So 2 minutes, a few minutes is much easier. So at home you can start few minutes at a time. Which one do you prefer, in the morning and late evening? Which one? Late evening?
Kids won't face
Kids? Can we start? Okay, let us start a minute. Thank you. So usually we start with the basic. I like to introduce Dr. Gary from Education Department. He was, you know him well, right? You took some of his classes.
I took one.
Surprisingly,
Yeah, because there's an online class, but I met with you once to talk about assignments and get to see the pictures. Good things.
So this year we start the class with 1 and 2 minutes breath meditation. So with inhale, exhale, you inhale, exhale naturally. Don't force them. Just pay attention on your breath and count. Inhale, exhale, count 1 naturally. When you inhale fully, that you exhale fully, count 1. Inhale, exhale, 1. Inhale, exhale, 2, and so forth. 1 and or 2 minutes. Okay, let's do 1 minute first, please. Okay.
Sure.
It was,
So you have your earlier lectures on YouTube?
Yeah.
You have your method?
All the lecture.
So how do I find that?
I will do that.
Okay.
and I haven't had a chance to look it up since we've been home.
You work in education, right?
Yeah.
It's a professor in education.
Dr. Pinkston?
Yep.
Oh, he,
I've had
he's
your
the
office
does.
in your education technology class.
W200.
Sorry?
W200.
How are you?
Very good.
You have a cold before.
Relax yourself, relaxing yourself. Can you count? How many?
10.
17.
2.
10.
So remember, it doesn't matter as much as you pay attention on the breath, as much as you recognize yourself. Everyone has different number. Okay, we do 2 minutes, please.
No, I can definitely see that. I don't.
Sure.
We did developmental psychologist
Still? Like when the, oh, okay. I was just doing it.
No, but we do have
One of those pages broke. Broken medicine that every time she was like, that's not.
Right. Like at age such and such, the kid can't think like this. Because we hit, on Monday, we were talking about the different stages of development of psych. And I was like, well, why is this not to everybody?
It just not to everybody, just not everybody.
Because as a parent, you hear, oh, well, kids don't come with a manual. Well, if a parent had. Yeah.
Really curious as to like what.
If a parent knew, okay, well, at age 3, they're not going to understand this, so you need to come out this way. So much, yeah.